What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Reviews podcast, where we review David Dobrik's podcast with Jason. My name is Chris.
My name's Mike.
Every week, David Dobrik and Jason Nash do a podcast. Mike and I will do a podcast about their podcast with our opinions and talk about the topics that they talk about.
All right. So they started off this podcast talking about, well, the podcast name was the Ferrari 458, you know, how he walked away from a Ferrari. So Jason starts off the podcast by talking about how David is so smart, which it usually means that he's going to end with him doing something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he's always wanted this Ferrari, and he asked Trisha at dinner one day, "Are you buying me a Ferrari for Christmas?" And apparently she was. And she was buying him a Ferrari for Christmas. So he said, she was pissed because she thought Jason told him and said, "Did you tell him?" And then he was like, and then David was like, "Oh, I fucked this up."
Yeah, actually, David took it kind of hard, and which was surprising. Like he didn't really want to mess up a surprise that was for him, and I think he thought the surprise was too big of a deal. Like obviously, he probably wouldn't have taken it from his perspective, like what he was saying, like he'd feel too bad, and try to pay it off. But I think it was meant to be a huge surprise, and he just hated that he ruined it.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. I just thought he was, I don't know. I guess I don't know what I thought. I didn't think that he thought that it was, that he ruined the surprise.
Although I think he's like half and half, because when he was talking about it, he felt really bad about ruining it, but he also said, "I talked myself out of a free Ferrari." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's like in the middle somewhere.
Right. So he would have tried to he said he would have tried to take care of like the fees and stuff to make it proper, I guess, like taxes and shit for getting that kind of gift. Because did you know the person giving the gift is the one that has to pay the tax?
Really?
Yeah. If I give you, like, I can give a person up to $14,000 a year and not pay tax. But if it goes over 14,000, the person giving the money has to pay the tax.
I see. Well, let's test it out. Like, send me 14 grand. Let's just see.
Let's see how that works out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then next year, just try 15, and we'll just see how much the taxes are.
I wonder why she would even consider, though, buying him a Ferrari.
Right. I mean, actually,
that's ridiculous.
Exactly. Actually, I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, she actually decided that she's just going to spend all this money for David. And like, I don't know if you pay attention to the vlogs, but it almost seems like there's like this hate-love relationship with Trisha. Like, she's in the vlogs sometimes, she's not in the vlogs, and like she seems like I wouldn't say she's included in the vlog squad. She's almost like a guest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah, and so she wanted to buy him a Ferrari. That's kind of crazy.
Well, and I like the part or at least I paid attention to the part where he said, you should have known not to say something like that or something, because you know how YouTubers are and people, and it's so weird that's the way they kind of operate. You buy each other huge gifts and
and it's like normal.
Just being in that community. Oh well, hopefully somebody does.
Well, here's a question. Do you think he will actually get it during Christmas?
I think so. I think he will. And also they kind of added in there that he kind of ruined the YouTube video, because obviously that's how. I didn't think about that at first, but that's how they were going to give it to him is for views.
Right.
Yeah, I see a lot of those videos.
I think he'll get it, but I think they're going to do something a little different with it. They're going to have to switch it up or something.
Yeah, or do it at a different time, or I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna
be tough. It's gonna be tough for all of them.
Well, it's also gonna be funny because he's always gonna be thinking he's getting a Ferrari.
Right. Right.
So they can prank him so hard.
Right.
they could take a Ferrari out for a test drive and just pick him up. Give him the keys, get in the car.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, since you ruined
You're,
the surprise, you're not getting it. We're just
no, oh, no, David, you're going the wrong way. The Ferrari dealer's that way.
yeah.
We only got it for 5 more minutes. Then the other thing they talked about was about the candles. This was kind of boring, but he woke up. He had put the candles out at night, and I don't know why somebody bought him a bunch of candles to make his house look like a haunted house.
Right.
Okay, and then so he was putting them out so he didn't burn the house down. And he woke up and there was two candles were well. His assistant said, "Why did you light candles so early in the morning?" And he's like, "I didn't." But
the reason why he brought it up is because he thinks, I don't know if you heard, either it was a while back. Yeah, it was a podcast where he talked about having a situation where he woke up bruises on his head. And so so he thinks like his house is haunted. And like,
but he doesn't believe in ghosts though, because he keeps talking about this, making it very clear. But then he said, he said sometimes he's in his room and he's laying there and he's like, if there's a ghost in here, stab me in my sleep, but not a painful stab.
Yeah, he said, just end it quick, And
so
I like how
he doesn't believe in it, but he talks about him a whole lot.
Yeah. I think he's just trying to make fun of it. And he's like, but then it never works because I wake up and then here's my day. And he's like talking to Jason like it's ruined because he's still alive.
That's crazy. And then this is interesting about, and we kind of talked about it, I think, a little bit in both of the other podcasts, but how Natalie called Jason, told him to come over because she needs to talk to David. And Jason's like, that's weird. That never happens. And so she wanted to, when they got over there, he told everybody, guys, I'm sorry that I yell at you sometimes, just like out of the blue. And they were just fucking shocked. First of all, well, good.
I think they're like, even me as a listener, I mean, a listener of his podcast and a viewer of his vlogs, it seems like David is a leader, is productive of what he's doing, and I think everyone what he says, and sure, it's traded and he yell at them, but I don't see. I never would have tried by saying, "Hey," like, he all of a sudden be off.
I think there was some reflection, and I mean, maybe that's him maturing. We've talked about before, how these guys in these startup companies, they think they know how to run a business, but they don't really know how. They don't have, he didn't go to management school or to take management courses, and it didn't have an opportunity to have somebody mentor him and develop those soft skills to deal with people. And so I feel like a lot of them soak up you have to be so mature to not get wrapped up in your position. Like when we worked together, it wasn't like you weren't thinking of my title when you were talking to me. And you were worried about doing what needed to be done and what I wanted. So that was understood. So me as a person, I know that that's understood. So I don't need to exploit it and I don't need to abuse it. And I think that these guys that don't have experiences leading people, I don't think they have all these people running around doing everything they want, dressing up as girls, doing it just because they have to. It's like a dictatorship.
Right. And I think they're just surprised. I mean, I'm sure as David gets older, he's going to be probably a little bit nicer and reflect on what he's doing. But I think what he said was he apologized to them because he had a breakdown, and he was talking about he's still making the least amount of earnings on YouTube amongst his friends. And that blows my mind. Like, I watched all his friends, and they're, in my opinion, I think they're as good as David. David gets to the point, a good point, and his vlogs are short and sweet, right to the point, and it's so entertaining. Watch the other Vlog Squad friends; they're very long and cut out. They're still pretty good in a sense because they're always, but I don't think.
Well, I agree. Obviously, I mean, I think that's not even that's not even an opinion. That's a fact.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fact with what he's getting. I just wish he would go into. I guess he says he's going to, but I wish he would go into like what's the reason? Like why did?
Yeah.
What exact? There has to be a precise reason, and so he's talking about it, in my opinion, to kind of talk to YouTube.
Right.
And saying how he feels that he's underappreciated, and he's being fucked by the system.
So, yeah.
And so what part of the system is broken? Is there something he's doing that their terms that sponsors can't give money to because he's doing something that's against what they put out? Or what's the reason? There's a reason.
Yeah. And
you can't just, it's like if you're going to work every day and every 2 weeks you're getting a paycheck, and all of a sudden it's 1/20th of what it was, you're going to talk to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not. But he just bitches on his podcast.
Yeah, so. And I'm sure if this continues to happen, he's going to have that mentality to slow down his progress of creating videos and stuff like that, which will suck for the fans. But yeah, I think, and I hope YouTube is listening to his podcast, because they do need to have a discussion. And is it because the content is just so crazy? Like he's doing so many outrageous things. I mean, they're not even that outrageous, but
what the fact that he's still bitching about it and talking about it on the podcast, he's such a big influencer. He has the phone numbers of everybody to call.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. This is the equivalent. I used to tell people at work, or like customers. I remember one time hearing a customer say, "Oh, they have something. Oh, they don't have something, or we didn't have some shit that they wanted," and they're talking to their buddy, and I went up to him and I said, "Why are you talking to him about it? He can't fix it. Talk to me." Like telling him isn't gonna solve your problem.
Right.
I said, "Well, you can talk to me, and I can figure out how to help you." And that's what he's doing. So he's like talking to us,
but he's not talking to YouTube.
Well, I don't get it. It's kind of he's whining, and he should be whining. He should be upset because he brings a lot of traffic to YouTube.
He does, yeah.
And so he's making YouTube a lot of money, and it just I just hate that bitching that like if you ever hear like a relationship where guy girl fighting all the time, and you can keep doing that, or you can fix it. And so he's just he's telling us, and I want to know more, but it's like he's bitching about something that he could easily solve.
Right. And just for the people listening in, the reason why this is such a big deal is because I think David in the last 3 podcasts has brought it up, but it's still the same, I guess, same thing he's talking about. He just keeps saying he makes the least amount of money amongst his friends who also vlog, but nothing has changed. He doesn't give us too much information, so we're just making all these assumptions, but he really should do something about it, because we both think, and I think everyone thinks, his vlogs are the best out of all of them.
Yeah. But talking about like the things that are bad, they had a ZipRecruiter ad, and once again, these ads that people are using them, they're kind of desperate, so they're paying them. I think Indeed. What do you think, ZipRecruiter or Indeed?
Indeed is amazing. I mean,
yes,
location, all the different descriptions you want to put in. You can put communications, you could put IT, and it will show you all the newest jobs. But what I really, really love is if you go on there like the next day or like a week from then, when you first checked it out, it will show you the newest jobs that got posted. So it's like you don't have to go through all the old crap again. It's just a really good experience.
Yeah. And you still try our promo code reviews.
Yep.
It may or may not work there yet. They haven't.
Yeah, we haven't signed a deal or anything like that, but in the future, we could possibly have a deal. So Indeed.com/reviews.
Yeah, they've reached out to me like by email, like showing me different jobs that I might want.
Mm-hmm.
But I just haven't got the email yet about the deal.
I used Indeed and phone calls from had interviews, so works really well. So yeah, if if you want stuff done and get a job, use Indeed, not Zip.
And empty promises in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that was another topic. Yep.
I'd love to know what kind of projects. Was it like a movie that they're like, we're going to get this movie deal done, and it was just basically saying that. Empty promises in LA are the worst because there's so many things that he almost could have been part of in the last year. He said there's so many things that he could write a book.
Right.
I'd love to know what kind of things those are.
Yeah. So David in his last week's podcast was talking about in LA, he really hates it that there are so many empty promises, meaning that there are so many deals and meetings he goes to, and they get all crazy about saying, hey, we're going to go do this thing with you, and we really want you to be on board. And it just seems to never happen. And he's getting so frustrated about it. And I feel like that's going to be typical in LA. And the reason why I say that, I think there is going to be a lot of red tape. There's these people who are in charge of a department of like, hey, we need you to go get influencers, think of an idea. How do we use them? How much do we pay them? And sometimes that idea might be so crazy or just so much cost and maybe not a good return, or just there's so many logistical things that may or may not happen that there's a likelihood of it not happening. But I think part of the process is you need to meet with the influencer and see if it's okay. And I think that's where they get excited, and then it just never happens.
Well, and he said that David under promises and over delivers, which is a great philosophy to have.
Yes.
I have to do that every single day because you don't want to.
Right.
You don't want to set yourself up for failure and cause some other problem. But Jason's maturity shows up again when he says, David, you have a different experience than these other people have. And basically what you just said, he said, you don't have a staff, you don't have a legal team, so things are easier for you.
Right.
Like in a big organization, anything can get stopped at any time.
Right.
Any idea, even if it starts gaining momentum, it just hits one bump. One person who says, this is a problem, or this is their danger, or maybe somebody is wants to get that done for you, and nobody else does.
Right.
That person thought they could push you through, but they had to meet with you to find that out. They can't get the whole plan all together and get everything approved and then come to you.
Right, and for David, it's easy because in YouTube world, he's not having to have Jason, Scott, Trisha, and Vardon and all those people sign a waiver for every crazy thing he's doing. So,
and also the dynamics of David. David's not even close to as big as these guys. So he thinks getting things done is easy because it is. It's Jason. It's 2 a.m. Come over and let's record the podcast.
Yeah.
He lives in that world where, well, I get everything done because you can order in your world, you're at the top.
Exactly.
But once you're out of that world, you're not.
Exactly.
And I think that's easy to forget. And Jason did make a little kind of a snipe kind of comment about how celebrities don't call David.
Oh, David really? I don't remember that.
Yeah. He said something like they don't call you. You have to call them. And there was some little comment like that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I wonder if David gets mad at Jason off air, and he's just like, dude, you didn't have to say that,
Oh well. So Trisha's character actually,
that's real. That's not a character.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Her character, and even Jason, they're their own individual character. David, I don't know that I would consider him the same. Trisha's a character, and it's so consistent. It's so blonde.
It is.
it's but her talking about, and I just hearing them talk about, when they were saying that she was complaining. She was like, oh, he was talking about a film that he was in. They were watching it, and she was like, "Why wasn't I in that film?"
Right.
And she didn't even know him. But that's such a Trisha thing.
Exactly.
Why didn't you ask me to eat lunch with you when you were in high school?
It,
Because I didn't know you.
it's the typical, like, if you had to say, like, oh, this is what a blonde person is like, it's literally like that. And what's so funny is that it's consistent, and like, I don't know, I'm I'm pretty sure that is 100% her. Like, because some YouTubers, they choose their.
Right.
I think that's her. I think that is her real self, even when she's not on camera.
Well, I hope you get to watch that whole vlog that Jason did of being David's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you can see when something's different. Like, you can see the people that are in the video, since David's not the one doing it.
Right.
David's in the video, and you see David as David, and it's different, and you can see some of the people there that are just who they are. You can see them from the vlogs, and you can see them in that environment, and they're just the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting. You should do that.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
So they had a meeting with Stephen Hirsch from Vivid Entertainment,
right, which is a porn company.
Yeah, and that dude's worth $100 million.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
You're worth $100 million for freaking naked people and making them bang.
It makes sense. I mean, the porn stuff, like the internet, almost seems like it was originally porn.
Right.
It was porn jumps into every industry first.
Right.
Like, so that's crazy. But it was funny hearing him talk about his meeting the guy's kids, and
yeah. So David, and so this was in the vlog actually last week as well. And so David and the vlog, part of the vlog squad, met with Stephen Hirsch, his kids, and they were asking them a bunch of questions like, hey, so do you get called names, or like, do you like what your dad does for a living? And it was so interesting. And actually, what a great question to ask kids, because I don't even know what I would feel like in that position and have my dad be like known as the porn guy. You know what I mean? But then
I never thought about that.
Yeah. And so thinking of that, and when they asked the questions, I wouldn't even think that the female would have a harder time in her life than the male. And then it just made sense once I heard the responses. But I think the daughters were saying, he had multiple daughters, right?
I think only one daughter.
Okay, one daughter, and then maybe one daughter and one son, I think. And then the daughter was like, yeah, I keep getting made fun of at school, whatever. And then the son was like, no, they know me as the porn prince or something like that.
Yeah, he said they call him porn prince, and he loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of makes sense, because I think in the girls, I've met more and more strippers, and I guess a long time ago, I probably thought that was bad. But
what would that do to you as you grew up?
Well, I mean, I think in their situation, they're just going to be executives in the porn industry.
Yeah,
so they don't. It's not going to. I don't think she's going to be driven to make the movie. So they're talking around this porn subject, and I thought I love hearing that, like the news stories. I wish I knew what age it was, but I guess David wanted to know what Jason's first porn experience was, and he found a VHS tape at the school, and they passed it around when he was around 15 or 16.
Right.
But then that led to David. He kind of split the story up, but he started talking about this dude Felipe,
mm-hmm.
and who used to run around when they were at camp in a cabin. He would came in and yelled midnight service. And I guess that midnight service was, I'm going to rub my balls on your face.
Yeah. He would go over to different people.
And he's like, oh, it's hilarious until he got to your bed.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck. That's funny.
I definitely can relate to that. And when I was in basic training, there was a dude that would literally run around when it was shower time and just like swing his dick left and right all over the room. Like, that was his thing.
Yeah, there's always some crazy ass people like that.
Yeah, and then what the funny part about that whole story is that the drill sergeant heard about him doing that, and someone told a drill sergeant that he was sticking his dick in a cone that we used to have, like just a regular orange cone,
Okay.
and so the drill sergeant the next morning called him downstairs and said, "Oh, I heard you're sticking your dick in a cone." He's like, "You love that cone so much? All right, you're going to carry this cone everywhere you go for the rest of basic training." And then he would always fucking say, "Hey, where's Coney?" Because he would forget the cone in like the barracks and shit. But yeah, just it's typical of guys to be fucking stupid.
But it's funny him getting introduced. So David hears about porn, or he's in class, and this kid Felipe, I think it's Felipe that was was in the first group. It could have been the second group, but anyway, they're watching
It was
porn.
Felipe, yeah.
Okay, so they're watching porn, and he's like, "This is disgusting." He's like, you watch porn at home," and he's like, "No, I do not."
Right.
And they're like, "Well, what do you jerk off to?"
And then David thought that was wrong too. Like only
and he's like,
gross
"You
people
touch yourself?
do
You touch yourself?"
Yeah.
So that was hilarious. So then it's a kid that's in shock, so he has to go verify with another group of friends.
Yeah.
So he goes to ask them, and surprisingly, one person didn't out of that group, but everybody else said, "Yeah, we all do this," and they thought it was disgusting. But the end of the story was great, and he was like, "Fucking Felipe is a genius," so he got it done.
Yeah.
It's like that was great.
Exactly.
That is hilarious. I wonder how old he was when he did that.
I don't know. It sounded like he was maybe like 13 or 14 because I think he was talking about another situation around that same time. But yeah, I think around there. I think if I had to compare that to him though, I feel like when I first was introduced to it, I was at somebody's house and I think it was a classmate and same thing happened. He like said, "Hey, come look at the computer screen," like whatever. And I was like, "Okay, what?" He didn't even tell me what he was going to do. And then he pulls up this porn website and it's like literally just this guy banging this chick's like super hard, and I was just like, "This is disgusting!" Like what is this? And I had the same reaction David had. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
I guess you have I guess everyone has the reaction.
Yeah,
it's a reaction. That's what's cool about the podcast. I guess we would generally never share that story.
Yeah, exactly.
And then my main man, Joe, and the Teeny Weeny. I like how he started out. He says, "Welcome to Joe's Teeny Weeny Podcast, the #1 rated mini podcast within a podcast."
Yeah.
I love that thing.
He does. He does need to take a little bit more advantage of it, though. He just makes bullshit happen.
But I feel like that's his thing. He has no intention of making anything of it, except he's in the podcast. So people are hearing him, and I just feel like that's going to be his routine.
Yeah, I guess so.
I like how he guessed Natalie. He said, "Natalie, introduce yourself." "Hi, I'm Natalie." "All right, well, that's it for Joe's Teeny Weeny Podcast."
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. But Joe, if you're listening to this, we'll give you a little bit more time. I know we're not as cool as the vlog squad, but give it maybe a few months, and we'll just be just as good.
Joe's Teeny Weeny Podcast.
We might have to change your name just a little bit, just in case they get mad at us, whatever. But yeah.
Stitch Fix. Have you ever even considered their ad was Stitch Fix? Have you ever considered ordering from that thing?
No, you know what? I have not, but I feel like Sarah has, because it's a guy and girl thing, right?
Yeah.
I think she did it for a little while, and then it was just garbage.
Oh, they weren't sending good stuff?
Yeah, I think it was just BS clothes.
I think it'd be really hard because especially for guys, like you're changing your mind all the time about what you like, and it would be tough for somebody to.
Yeah, so if you guys heard his ad about Stitch Fix, don't even do it. It's so pointless. I did a different company, and I wouldn't say it was better, but I can tell you that if you're having someone else choose your clothes for you and you just randomly get surprised, you're going to hate 90% of the shit that's in that box because you didn't get to try it on. You don't know if it goes with your style. I think I did it for 2 months, and it was just shitty. But
Yeah,
Amazon is doing a super cool thing, so you can check this out instead of Stitch Fix. It's where you can pick out all the clothes that you want on Amazon. I forget what it's called. It's like Amazon clothing or something like that. I don't know. But you pick out all the clothes you want. They send it to you. You try it all on, and then what you don't want, you just put back in the box and send it back to them, and they only charge you for what you kept. It's pretty cool.
I heard. Yeah, and I heard that you can buy. Isn't there something where you can buy like boxes of stuff? Like we'll send you $1,500 worth of stuff that we think there's something like that. I have to look that up.
I mean, there's a bunch of sites like that.
Yeah,
like,
I saw something from Amazon. I think it was somebody's YouTube video where they were opening up
right.
a surprise Amazon box or something like that.
Right, you can pay like $1,500 for $3,000 worth of stuff, and then depending on what category you purchase, it's basically all of Amazon's returns or overstock, and then you just never know what you get in the box. But whatever you purchase is 100% yours. It's just you are paying less than the actual value of what's in the box.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
It is pretty cool.
I like this story about Nick Salerno. I thought I wasn't going to like it at first, but for another reason. Nick Salerno that would take a shit in history. I guess that was his time of the day to take a shit. Oh. And I heard from my doctor that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
You're supposed to take a shit at the same time every day. But we went on from that to talk about how cool. Well, they talked about him saying shit, and Jason's like, no, they didn't say shit. Your teacher didn't swear.
Yeah, so wait, you missed it real quick. Nick Salerno is a student in his history class, David's history class, but they started going into how cool his teacher was.
Right.
Yeah.
So that led to, because of the saying he was taking a shit, Jason asking about what he didn't say shit, that got into the conversation about how cool his teacher was. Right. And he said that his teacher he'd be like, I don't want to be here. And he's like, then get out of here, go home or whatever. He's like, can I just go home? And he says, yeah. Can I take something with me? Sure. And that was how his teacher was. And I think he's the exact kind of person that knows what companies should do. Well, he should do that too. He's not that way. What he respected about the teacher, but he said the teacher he said he would get a D, and he doesn't want a D, and he tells the teacher he doesn't think he deserves that, and so the teacher changes the grade. But he said he learned more from that teacher than anybody in his life, any other teacher, because they were. He actually said that laid back attitude is what gets shit done. And it was so impressive for me to hear him say that. But that's the youthful part of his mind that's so true.
It is.
Everybody's always like, oh, don't take your cell phone out. Don't do this. Don't drink water. Don't do this. Everything is just so strict, and you don't get somebody's best. And he made it clear when he said that whenever he would get mad at me, I knew it was serious. And so I took it serious because, he was always so cool to me. And we talked about that before, like a couple weeks ago, I think, about how just being, that big. I remember one guy, I think he was still in high school at the time. And one time I got pissed at him. We were trying to get customer emails. And so I was standing behind, I walked up behind him as the prompt came up to get the customer's email, and he just bypassed it. I got so pissed. I didn't yell, but I was firm. I said, didn't I ask you to get the customer's email? He said, yeah, I know, but they don't want to give it. And I said, that's not what I asked you to do. I asked you to get the customer's emails. I said, did we pay you last week? He said, yeah. I said, do we get to take some of that back because you're choosing to only do some of the work? And
you're such an asshole.
I said, we pay you the full amount. We want the full amount. And but he came to me later and he was like, I didn't even know who that was, because he had never experienced that before. Right. But he sure as hell got. But yeah, I thought that was, just as a side point, I thought that was cool, because that observation is exactly correct. And most people don't understand that. Even him, You don't have to act like the boss all the time. The teacher doesn't have to. The teacher is the teacher.
Right.
So you can't change it. You don't have to assert yourself like, don't you know I'm the teacher? Yes, we know. Everyone knows that already.
Yeah.
So you don't have to act like that. But people feel like they have to. People feel they have to fill the title.
Right. And it sucks because I deal with that a bunch of times throughout like my career and like the different jobs I've had. And I think only within the past, I would say 8 years, is that I always tell people like, you just have to relax. Like I get when someone is above me or someone is equal to me in terms of job responsibilities, but like let's just talk. Let's just be real people. No, there's no need for authority unless I'm not doing the job I told you I was going to do. You know, if some manager was talking to me, but I usually talk to my superiors in a more relaxed way so that they can also relax too, because I feel like there's more collaboration and more ideas that happen when you do that with somebody. But
do you remember my Starbucks meetings?
Yes.
Did you have one?
No, I never had a Starbucks meeting. But you know what else I remember is you always telling us like that bucket story.
That's hilarious.
Explain the bucket story, because I can't do it as good as you.
The bucket story is just if you
basically if I were to say, oh, you can't fire me, or I'm gonna leave because I'm so good at my job, kind of thing, and then Mike would tell me this. Go ahead, explain it.
Yeah, I would say it's employees are like a hand in a bucket of water. What happens when you pull your hand out of the bucket of water? It fills right back up.
Yeah. If you guys probably don't know Mike as well as I do, but I mean, you could hear from some of the examples he just mentioned throughout the podcast, but he's very good at being a manager, but he also says some of the most asshole-ish shit ever, and it catches you off guard. But then it's like, okay, I got to do better.
That's crazy. Okay, so and I've heard of people doing this, but they talked about the app, the $700,000 app that they walked away from. These people, and I've seen it. Like, remember, we talked about Live Me being sponsors for people. So apparently, this app wanted to collaborate,
right?
And they were guaranteed $700,000 just to put their podcast on that app.
Oh, so okay. So I was trying to figure out if it was like a new app. Oh, but they wanted to put his podcast on that app.
Right.
Okay.
And so David thought that was going to hurt their podcast, and Jason was saying, "How is it going to hurt our podcast? We're not going to change. It's just going to be in another place, and we're going to get $700,000." And David's response, which I hear from a lot of social media people, is like, "I'm not selling out for some asshole app." Like, that's him selling out, because when Ice Poseidon was doing that, that's what all of his followers were saying. When he would broadcast on Live Me, they would call him a sellout.
I see.
And that's so touchy to them being called a sellout. If somebody's going to give me $700,000, I mean, I'm not going to sell out on everything,
right?
But, you know, and
choose.
From Jason's perspective, that sucks for him, because David makes a whole bunch more money, and that was just an opportunity for him to have more money.
Right. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. I think, I don't know, depending on if it was just another host and they just wanted to primarily have them make their podcast through that app, then maybe. But if it was like a complete change, okay, then I get it. Like, if his audience had to like jump through hoops just to get to listen to the podcast, it would have been.
I don't think he was going to change. I didn't get the feeling that he was going to change platforms, just that it would be also on their platform.
Oh man, then he should have done it. What the hell?
And then the company went bankrupt, so they would have got the money and not do anything.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can tell Jason's a little pissed about that.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing they talked about was a kid. Not that big of a story, but I do think it's kind of cool when you hear like a kid that this kid's mom was a composer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they meet all these people and how they meet all these kids. Oh, so I guess Jason must be driving a carpool. So he got a new kid named Sean, who is now riding in the carpool with him.
Mm-hmm.
And but the kid's mom is a composer, and the kid was young. I don't know if he was 6 or I
Something
think
like
he's
that. Yeah.
somewhere around that age.
Yeah.
But he came in the house or got in the car or whatever and said, whatever performance he saw the night before, it left him uninspired.
Wow. That's
Crazy
fucked up.
And it sucks for that kid. Hopefully he goes to school with a whole bunch of other rich kids like that.
Yeah.
So otherwise he's going to get beat up.
Yeah.
Your joke just left me uninspired. Yeah, but that was pretty much summed up the podcast. It was pretty decent. A lot of like side things, but
Yeah. It
yeah.
was decent. There's a lot of bickering between Jason and David, but yeah, it was decent. I don't think it was like a one of the top podcasts that I would say, oh man, it's like watching a vlog. But every podcast they do is pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys for listening to the Reviews podcast, where we review David Dobrik's and Jason Nash's podcast. It's called Reviews. They do one every week, and we just talk about the same topics that they talk about and give our opinions about them.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.